All right, so here's the thing. In the next few hours, the XRP ledger is about to flip a switch that Wall Street has been waiting years for. And I'm not talking about price action. I'm talking about infrastructure. The kind of infrastructure that lets banks, actual regulated banks, finally touch DeFi without breaking compliance. Yeah, let's get into it. The XLS80 Permission Domains Amendment is activating today, February 4th, 2026. This is the foundational layer that makes everything else possible for institutional adoption on the XRP ledger. Okay, so first up, permissioned domains. Now I know that sounds technical, but stick with me here because this is actually huge. So what are permissioned domains? Think of them as controlled zones within the XRP ledger blockchain, right? Walled gardens where only verified, credentialed participants can operate. Now here's what's interesting. The domains themselves, they don't actually do anything on their own. So why does this matter? Because they're the foundation. They're the building blocks that other features plug into. We're talking permission DEXs, lending protocols, all the stuff that institutions have been saying they need before they can move serious capital on-chain. And here's the key insight that most people are missing. Regulatory compliance isn't optional for institutions. It's the gateway to adoption. So by building this compliance layer directly into the protocol, the XRP ledger is basically rolling out the red carpet for banks and asset managers. The amendment builds on XLS 70D credentials, which means you need verified credentials to access these permission zones, KYC and AML, baked right into the blockchain. Now let's talk about what USEs, these permissioned domains. The permissioned DEX amendment, XLS 81, is currently in validator voting and approaching a critical milestone. All right, so now we're getting to the good stuff, the permissioned DEX. Here's the problem it solves. Traditional decentralized exchanges. They're open to everyone by design, right? That's the whole point. But for regulated institutions, that's actually a problem. Because how do you enforce KYC when anyone can trade? How do you meet AML requirements on an open order book? The answer? You can't. And that is why banks have stayed on the sidelines, until now. So the permission DEX creates trading environments where only credentialed participants within a specific domain can place and accept offers. Think about what this unlocks. Stablecoin and fiat FX swaps between regulated entities. Cross-border B2B payments with verified counterparties. Corporate treasury operations that need a full audit trail. Now the vote is currently sitting around 53% validator support. It needs 80% for 2 consecutive weeks to activate. But here's what's interesting. Ripple just published a detailed breakdown on their insights page, calling this the next step in institutional DeFi. They're not hiding their intentions here. And the composability is what makes this powerful. Different domains can have different requirements. One domain for US securities requiring accreditation, another for institutional wholesale markets requiring banking licenses, all coexisting on the same infrastructure. And now, shifting gears to something that just dropped yesterday. Fireblocks announced integration with the Canton network. This is a big deal for institutional settlement infrastructure. Okay, so this one's fresh. February 3rd, 2026. Fireblocks drops a press release that most people probably scrolled past. But this is actually massive. So who's Fireblocks? They're the infrastructure platform securing over $5 trillion in digital asset transfers annually. They're not some startup. They're the backbone that institutions use to custody and move digital assets. And they just integrated Canton Network. Now, Canton is interesting because it's the only public permissionless blockchain specifically purpose-built for institutional finance. Privacy, compliance, scalability, all designed from the ground up for regulated markets. Here's what the integration enables. Secure custody for Canton Coin, enterprise policy controls, workflow automation, and critically, a governed environment where financial institutions can settle tokenized real-world assets on-chain. And look at the working group that's already building on Canton. Bank of America, Citadel Securities, Societe Generale, TradeWeb, Virtu Financial, Circle. These aren't crypto-native firms. These are the heavyweights of traditional finance. Stephen Richardson, Fireblocks Chief Strategy Officer, said it directly. Quote, institutions exploring tokenized assets need infrastructure that aligns with how they operate, confidentially, predictably, and with strong governance. That's the playbook right there. So look, 3 developments. Permission domains going live today on XRPL. The permission DEX vote pushing toward activation, and Fireblocks integrating Canton for institutional settlement. These aren't isolated events. This is coordinated infrastructure build-out across multiple networks, all targeting the same customer, regulated financial institutions. The narrative isn't about price anymore. It's about plumbing. And the institutions building this plumbing, they're not doing it for fun. They're doing it because trillion-dollar flows are coming, and they want to be ready. If this kind of institutional-grade analysis is what you're looking for, hit subscribe and drop a comment. Which institution do you think moves first on this infrastructure? I want to hear your take.